That'll work.
What's up, y'all? It's Grant with another episode of Gooey Files. And today I got with me, my man Jay.
What's good? What's good?
And today we will be discussing the one, the only, the hometown hero, Big KRIT. This is kind of I was gonna do a DJ Quick episode next, but people were talking about KRIT on my TL this morning. I was kind of like, yeah, let me go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and talk this one. And who other than discuss it with my man Jay? He a big KRIT fan too, so we gonna get into it. So first thing I want to say is the first question is, what do we view Big KRIT's legacy as? I'm gonna go ahead and say, obviously, one of the best rappers to ever, the best rapper come out of Mississippi. Second, one of the best rapper and producers ever. Incredible catalog. Only underrated and underappreciated due to label issues. Because he had any type, if this label situation goes right, he's looked at in a whole different light. And obviously an underrated songwriter as well. Having multiple classic mixtapes and one of the only people to pull off a double album as well as he did. So off the top of my head, I think that's what KRIT's legacy is.
Yeah, I think those are all really important points. And something that stands out to me, like you mentioned, him being probably the best from Mississippi. And I know a lot of people are not familiar with the hip hop scene in Mississippi, but the way that Big KRIT was always vocal about where he was from, despite not being from a major city, that's something that somebody like me, being from a small city, that's something that I really appreciate. Because you'll see artists sometimes, they'll go and just name drop the big city that they're in the closest proximity to, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I can appreciate him, being straightforward and saying, "Oh, I'm from Meridian, Mississippi," and it's just like, y'all might not know where that is, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna let you know that that's my home, and that's how I became who I am.
Big KRIT is from Meridian, Mississippi. And for those of you who do not know where Meridian, Mississippi is, it is one of the bigger cities in Mississippi. It's like right on the line between Alabama and Mississippi. But the thing is, Meridian is like, of course, to like the US, they wouldn't know about Meridian. The only thing you probably know about Meridian for, if KRIT wasn't there, is probably Mississippi football. And that's probably like back in the day.
Right.
So it's not the fact that KRIT reps his city, it's like he reps a smaller city in the grand scheme to the rest of the world, the United States, and gives like exposure and just kind of just acting like, hey, we here, we exist. Like there's people just like me that exist. I just make music. Right. Second thing is that KRIT is one of the biggest people I know who wears his influences on his sleeve. Like outside of any other, it's a lot of other Black rappers that do this. Like, you got a Kendrick, you got a Cole, you got a Currency, and so on, and Drake, and so on and so forth. But nobody reps their influences on their sleeve from the beginning to the career to their current career now, like Big KRIT does. Like on his most critically acclaimed album, which was years into his career, he is repping Pimp C UGK. I mean, not Pimp C. Just say UGK in general. A-Ball, MJG, and etc. and so forth throughout the entire album, and like he's being vocal about it. KRIT is one of the only people I still feel like that actually reps that Southern sound. Like, of course, you got like, yeah, that Southern sound. Like, he really one of the only people left doing that. I would say second is probably like you have some Memphis rappers that do it as well, like Duke Deuce and everything like that. But like KRIT, like he's never really lost his identity on that aspect, and I
Right.
appreciate that.
Even outside of him being influenced by artists like UGK and Outkast, if you listen to even his most recent album, Digital Memories Don't Die, no, Digital Roses Don't Die, I'm sorry. You hear the influences from other Southern artists like Devin the Dude or Zero, and like that's just not something that for him to be as in the public eye as he is, even though he might be considered less mainstream compared to his peers. But for someone, an artist on as big of a scale as he is, it's rare to see influences from artists like that on a larger scale.
But people don't really do it. Like people really don't do that anymore. And like it's always like it's important because it's like, hey, and this is why I always say a student being a student of the game is always important because it helps your fans learn more music history. Like for instance, in the blog era and everything like that. I'll say this for example. ASAP Rocky or ASAP Rocky. ASAP Rocky's whole thing was, okay, we from New York, but we gonna be heavily Southern influenced and do that. When you rep your like in like KRIT, like when you rep these people in your music, it makes people want to go and do their research. Be like, okay, like of course I'm like, yeah, I knew who Pimp C was and like 3 6 Mafia was before them, but just as an example, like it makes you want to do like a deep dive, go look at deep cuts, look at all the like actually do your research, and I feel like that's important. And I feel like that's what the new generation is missing, and I do think some people still do it, and I really do hope it comes back in full force. So I do appreciate KRIT for that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the newer Memphis artists that are kind of wearing their influences on their sleeve, bringing it to the forefront, because you hear artists like Duke Deuce and Glorilla and other Flo Milli, even like the artists from the South that are, you can hear the direct influences, like that there's a lot of 3 6 Mafia samples on a lot of newer music. And it's been more popular as of late, but I'm glad that sound is getting recognition and being brought to the forefront.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's time that the South like actually like 3 6 Mafia, like 3 6 Mafia has always been like, I'm gonna say this for another episode, but I'll say this, like in terms of sound, like there's the current landscape looks drastically different without 3 6 Mafia existing. Like I think that greatly alters the history of current mainstream rap, because without it, I don't know where Southern rap is. It just looks drastically different. But we're gonna move on to the little next segment. So, Jay, I need your top 5 projects from KRIT in order. Actually, no, not in order. That's too hard.
I was gonna say, because I mean, if you want me to go in order, I can, I might regret something I said, but I could. We can go for it.
Nah, that's too hard. But I would say, I think we can end up doing the best project later.
Okay. So we are doing mixtapes and albums, correct?
Yeah, ranking them all together.
Okay. So I'm gonna start with um Return of Forever and Forever and a Day.
Okay.
Um I will also go with Forever's a Mighty Long Time. Um let's go with KRIT Was Here.
I was about to say, like, I know damn well you ain't finna put KRIT. KRIT Was There not on there.
Yeah, okay. See, now I gotta think about it a little bit more.
So let me tell you what you got left. Hold on. Let me tell you what you got left. Give me a second. So you got Cadillactica. You got 12 for 12. If you want to count that, you got It's Better This Way. King Remember the Time. Live from the Underground. And then, of course, KRIT Is Here. And Digital Roses Don't Die.
All right, so I'm gonna go with King Remembered in Time as my fifth.
I'm glad you picked that one because I say this, man. King Remembered in Time. It got Good Together on it, and it got Banana Clip Theory on it. So
So let me also say, King Remembered in Time has Life is a Gamble. So
that's the one I'm talking about, not Banana Clip Theory.
So I mean, Banana Clip Theory is great also, but let me say, Life is a Gamble. Okay, for me, being as big of a KRIT fan as I am, and also being the little brother fan that I am, having a Big KRIT and Ninth Wonder song on that mixtape, like when I say I ran that song into the ground when I was in high school, like it was so well put together. And I feel like that's what I appreciate that so much about it. It was so well put together. And even that whole mixtape, even songs like Shine On with Bun B, who is still rapping at a high level for as long as he's been rapping. I love Good Together with Ashton Jones. That's not their I don't believe that's their only song together. I think they have a couple more. And there was some other, mainstream artists that came with features on that mixtape, like was Wiz Khalifa was on Only One, if I'm remembering correctly. BJ the Chicago Kid was on Life is a Gamble.
Yeah.
And Multi to the Sun Die, also a great song, great closing to that that mixtape. And you got songs on there like REM. It's just really well put together. And you mentioned earlier about how good of a songwriter he is. And I feel like that's one of those mixtapes that sounds even better now that it's been out for a while. Going back and listening to it, it's just like you hear how well those songs are constructed.
I think one thing about KRIT is that when people talk about hooks and how about rappers can't, like a lot of rappers can't do hooks, he's one of the only people from the blog era that I feel like, yes, he can do a hook pretty well. Because of course, Good Together, a lot of songs on KRIT Was Here. What else? It's better this way. Actually, it's a really good really good mixtape on how good KRIT was at hooks, and like even though it was like him basically the part in Def Jam, it was like, hey, this ain't for me. What else? Forever and a Day, the extended version is. Some days I want to put that as his second best, really, because that shit amazing, man. Like I ain't gonna lie to you, like that shit got Forever and a Day.
I guess we got
Red Eye, Booby Miles.
Yeah, I might have to.
That shit.
I might have to. I don't know if I should say that.
It's
It
like a
might it might be my favorite.
dog. It's like a three-way. It's like a you could honestly argue it's like a four-way type of KRIT. That's probably it. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah. It's the thing is like they all, even if like you know how you can say some artists get formulaic with the way that the albums are structured, but there's something about the specific songs on those projects that just
Yeah,
really draw you in.
KRIT is. I say this in terms of songwriting. KRIT is a master of touching all bases of. This is why I've always said. This is why I've always like Isaiah Rashad. And I feel like KRIT and Isaiah Rashad are similar in this aspect. They have a habit of being able to touch all emotions on a spectrum instead of like a black and white way. It's kind of like, okay, you're happy and you're not. KRIT can do like KRIT like can analyze the spectrum of emotions and do it pretty well on songs. Like for instance, like not on songs but project, but for instance, you have Bowie Miles, Red Eye, what's the name of that? Yesterday. Me and my old school 1986. And also KRIT is really good at kind of, I'm not gonna say commercial songs, but songs that are kind of, and I'm not gonna say meant for the radio, but songs that say, okay, if there was a song that has some commercial appeal, this will be the song. I really do feel like I feel like Forever in a Day has like a ton of songs like that.
I can agree with that.
Now, time for the real question. What are KRIT's top 3 songs? I'm gonna have to go with this. I'm gonna have to go with The Vent at number 1. Mount Olympus at number 2. And we actually gonna get into that. Because I do want to talk about Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus at number 2. And Bury Me in Gold at 3.
Ooh, I love that pick. I don't know what I was expecting your number 3 to be. I feel like the first 2 are like the quintessential.
The KRIT song.
Like I feel like The Vent and Mount Olympus are like the quintessential KRIT songs.
Like they grasp his whole career like in one.
Right. It's just like if like you mentioned him being able to cover such a wide spectrum of emotions and being able to convey feelings. And I feel like those 2 songs encapsulate that.
I agree. Let's talk about. I feel it's very poetic that KRIT had the best Mount Olympus. Like Mount Olympus was the best control response. Because I ain't gonna lie to you. After Mount Olympus and then Illuminati Part 2, I felt like everybody else was just kind of like catching up in control responses.
No, I think that's valid. I thought Mount Olympus was far and away the best response.
Yeah, no question.
I think that it was just the fact that he embraced the competitive edge that that Control had and what it led to. I think that Mount Olympus, he embraced that head on in a way that wasn't, and I not to say that the responses were not well thought out, but it was just his was so well done. It was to the point where that song stands on its own. Like to the point where I don't even think of that song as a response to Control.
We had like there was intention behind it. Like that's my thing. Like it wasn't like, okay, I'm just trying to borrow Kendrick. like,
Right.
or kind of prove everybody wrong. It was like KRIT went into it. It was like, okay, this is a address. Like, okay, I'm gonna match you on your competitive spirit, and basically prove to the world, okay, it don't matter where I'm from, I can still be revered as one of the best, no matter if I no label push or not, or things like that. Like, it
Right.
was kind of like, it wasn't even like just proving everybody wrong. It was kind of like, okay, I'm honestly tired of being underrated too. Y'all can see, y'all can have that. I'm gonna still show you up, like, regardless. And if I hate using this term in terms of narratives, because I don't really like narrative based talk.
Mm-hmm.
But if he got that dog in a was a song, it's Mount Olympus. KRIT got that dog
That's a
in him. He had that
that's a
dog in
good
him
way
for
to
real.
that's a good way to put it. I guess I didn't think of it that way, but that's
He
about right.
that nigga had that dog in. Oh my god. No, because like like, dog, I can't believe listening to Control in school was fucking crazy, but listening to KRIT response, I literally could not believe that shit. I was like, I was a big Rocky fan in my early stages of in those stages when Control dropped. Like, ASAP Rocky was my favorite rapper. But then
Mm-hmm.
Kendrick made me respect him. Like, I didn't become a hardcore Kendrick fan to Simple Butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
But that man KRIT, when KRIT dropped that song, and 2015 when he dropped It's Better This Way, funny enough, even though it's one of the lower tapes on my, like, I think it's still good, but it's one of the lower tapes on my KRIT list.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with
He
that.
dropped Vanilla Sky, and I was like, damn, I really need to appreciate this nigga more.
Yeah,
Because it was
and
like,
yeah, it's better this way. Like you said, it's not one of my, it's not one of the more highly revered KRIT tapes, but songs like Vanilla Sky and King Part 4 is just I appreciate those songs. And I appreciate that tape for what it is. Like, a mixtape doesn't have to be perfect to have an impact on you. And I feel like a lot of people lose sight of that sometimes, to the point where it's just like, yeah, this tape was okay. So it kind of gets lost in translation, for lack of a better word. But I think a lot of times it's okay to appreciate things that those projects do well, even if they're not the ones that stick with you the most.
and see, this is my philosophy on how I rate albums or standards, everything like that. I take the intention behind it, what you're trying to go through in terms of sound, or you're trying to go through in terms of like first thing, I take what you're good at. Like, for instance, KRIT, I know he's good at multiple things. I'm not gonna say he's a jack of all trades. I feel like he's better than that. But I know for the KRIT album, I'm gonna get some very southern production, some good pen game, and some overall really attention detail in terms of crafting of sound and as a body of work. First thing is, I judge. That's how I judge everybody. I take what I know you're good at, and I know what your standard is, and I kind of, I'm not gonna say compare it, but I can kind of tell, okay, the execution is off, or okay, this was definitely better than what you did before. So I just go from there. I judge everybody differently, so I don't have like a set criteria for every, like a one fits all criteria. So that's how I kind of like came across. I was like, when I was listening to Forever Is My Long Time, I was kind of like, yeah, this shit, that's definitely that nigga best album. Cause like, number one, Donovan said this on a past episode, and I agree with them. Group rap is harder than singular rap. But I think
Mhm.
one of the hardest things to make, two of the hardest things to make in hip hop are one, double albums, and number two, concept albums. I
Mhm.
don't think people know, and let alone, I don't think people know how hard it is to even fuse both of them together. And
Right.
that's what I feel like KRIT did on Forever's My Long Time. And he executed such a high level. Because when he, like, I remember the rollout, he did a really good job of rollout. And he was like, okay, first thing I'm going to drop is Confetti. And I was like, I was listening to so like, okay, this is good, but I didn't know how the album was going to sound. The album
Right.
exceeded my expectations. I was not expecting something as good as that. And then the number one, funny thing is, I don't like making basketball analogies either, but this is the best way I can explain it. If this one on that album is LeBron first stint with Cleveland, the second disc on the album is like Miami Heat Bron, or like second stint Bron in Cleveland. It's like, yeah, this is great, but this is even better. And
Mhm.
I was just really shocked and blown away.
Yeah, I knew that there was gonna be something to it when the first side was called Big KRIT and the second side was called Justin Scott. I knew that the second disc was gonna be a lot more personable
Mm-hmm.
and a lot more introspective. And even knowing that, I was still blown away by the execution on that. Like disc two, this two might be a perfect project on its own. And connecting it to disc one, which can, go toe to toe with some of his better mixtapes. And disc two being a near flawless effort as far as I'm concerned. That like for that as a double album, that really did blow me away.
Like that shit, bro, that shit crazy, man. Like there's like that's one of the biggest. This is my thing. I think that that's the best double album since, excluding Summertime '06.
Mm-hmm.
What was the last best double album since Forever Is a Mighty Long Time, before 2017 and Bad, excluding Summertime '06?
So
Is it
on that,
Speaker Box?
see, I didn't want to go there. I didn't. I didn't want to go there, but I was. I was trying to think. It might be speak. It might be speaker box below. It might be.
Man, that shit crazy. But um last question. Where does he, in terms of Blau era legacy, where does he rank amongst his peers? I think I'm gonna go with, at worst, top 5. No question.
Yeah,
I
I'm with
think
that. Well, let me ask this. So, what time period are we using to define the blog era?
now when I say Blau era peers, I'm talking about anybody that came up with him. So we're including up until this point in time, but I'm just talking like comparing him to the people that grew up in with his class.
Okay, so
So
you're saying like Drake,
Kendrick,
Kendrick,
like
J.
Kendrick, Drake,
Cole,
Cole, yeah, exactly.
Currency. Got you.
Yeah. So
Um,
I'm gonna go with this. I don't have him. The only thing I can for 100%, I can't even 100% say that, because I feel like, damn, It's hard.
That's
I don't. I will say this.
you love to ask the impossible questions. I love it though. It makes
I
me think
have.
about it.
I got. They gonna eat me up for this, but I'll go ahead and say it. I got him over Mac. I got him
Yeah.
over Spitter. I don't know if I have him over Danny. Because Danny got some shit in his catalog. He got some shit.
He got, triple X or 30 or whatever you want to call it. Black and brown.
Yeah. Danny got some shit. I'll say,
well,
I'll give him this. I think he figured it out and he has a much higher floor. I think he figured out in terms of music and what he wanted to do much quicker than a lot of the blog ever did. Like,
okay. I can agree with that.
When we have a bunch, because we have of course you got like Kendrick, Danny, and like Mac and people like that with high ceiling guys, like super high ceiling guys. But and by the way, definitely over Cole. Sorry, Cole. Yeah. Not trying to slander you, but definitely over Cole. I feel like he figured it out quicker in terms of music. Like in terms of because when I listened to KRIT was here, I was like, yeah, this nigga got the formula already. I ain't got to worry about this nigga losing the formula or anything like that. But only issue is that he just didn't have the label backing. But I'm gonna go ahead and say I think he's at top 3. Cause Kendrick and Danny are the only 2 people I'm kind of not like confident of putting, like I'm not confident putting KRIT over them. I think I'll give him a 3.
Okay, so let me reiterate. I don't like this question. But this is really tough, man. I like the angle that you use when you say that he knew what he wanted to do as far as artistic direction. He knew very early on. Like even if you listening to stuff before KRIT was here, like if you listen to the See Me on Top mixtapes, you can hear then how he structured his rhymes and the way that he wanted his music to sound. He definitely had a grasp of that earlier on than most. And I don't feel bad saying.
Hold on, you breaking up a little bit.
He's my favorite. I am
just a little. But I agree with you. Like I don't think it's a hot take at all. Like
I don't. I don't feel bad.
You can go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't feel bad saying that that he's my favorite from that era. So
that's not what I would say at all.
Yeah, I don't feel bad saying that he's my favorite. I'm not here to discuss I'm not necessarily to say whose catalog is the best. Because you go into because then you have to start talking about like major releases and what impact they had and so on and so forth. But I'm also surprised you didn't mention Drake at all, because that run started in 2006, like that Room for Improvement comeback season. But Yeah, I don't feel bad saying it. He's my favorite from that era. I won't. I don't think saying whether or not he's the best. I don't think that really matters that much. But as far as I'm concerned, I'll take his catalog. As far as I'm concerned.
Uh, that's that's my own thing. Like, there's only two. I think there's only two other catalogs I'm taking over him on in that era. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but on that note, we gonna close the episode. Going forward, I think we might put the DJ KRIT episode on hold because I want to do a Little Brother episode and I want to do 3 6 Mafia episode. So we gonna have to see. But other than that, we appreciate y'all for pulling up. Big stuff coming soon in 2023. More interviews, more YouTube, more writing pieces, all the other stuff. Peace out.